Well, people have asked the question just about why didn't we sue them, or why didn't we sue them over the lights and that sort of thing. And again, it's kind of the same answer about what does the court record tell us about the success of doing that. And it's very clear that the courts have sided with essentially ADOT or their equivalents over and over in the past. And the notion that we would sue them, it means you got to have some reason to do it. And the question is, what would we sue it for? I know there's been a lot of speculation out there about, oh, why don't the city have the nerve to sue ADOT or the skill to sue ADOT? But the reality is that both our internal counsel and very expert external legal counsel that we've hired have told us that the city has very low chance of succeeding in that. So spending literally hundreds of thousands of dollars of public money chasing that kind of a notion is a very poor use of public dollars. You know, the question of whether a recall or referendum could reverse the decision again requires perhaps a little speculation, but based on what I see and what I know, and again I want to make sure this is really clearly based on just my opinion of what I see and know right now from living with this circumstance, my answer is no. The notion, first of all, that's being peddled by some folks that, well, we'll just recall some city council members and that will reverse the decision. I know that part is absolutely false. If we had some new council members in there, they might try to approach ADOT or try to re-vote on this. But the reality is that ADOT has been very clear to us that any tampering with this decision, any effort to shove the road back on ADOT, even if it were somehow successful in court, would result in ADOT immediately using their legal authority to start the process of transferring this road to Sedona unilaterally, and there would be no funding package like we're looking at right now. That puts us in a lose-lose situation. You know, if we were to have a referendum or a recall election, that's about a $25,000 plus endeavor. It will cost us, $25,000 or more to do that sort of a thing. So this is simply a speculation or some notion that we're going to reverse this decision or change things as a result of that is going to be a very expensive lesson at the ballot box if we have a special election and spend another $25,000 chasing that. And then if we were to get ourselves into a court situation trying to fight ADOT, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars in that kind of a fight. Well, there's been some folks speculating that, gee, we had some other choices besides the two that were on our agenda on February 22nd. That's simply not true. There were two choices and only two choices on there. One was to accept the route transfer and the package that was negotiated, and the other one was, as I mentioned earlier, to vote affirmatively, to tell ADOT to come to town and put in the street lights and then essentially stay out of their way, period, on 89A. And that anything other than that, simply voting no on the transfer or no on the streetlights and walking away, would result in ADOT immediately starting the process to install the streetlights and also immediately starting the process to unilaterally transfer this road to Sedona, again without that funding package like we're looking at now. Once the transfer is complete, which will happen one day after that $10.65 million is put into the bank account, probably in mid-April, nobody's going to see anything real quick out of this in terms of something all of a sudden taking place on the street. The first things you'll see physically will be ADOT coming to town to start the repaving process. But what the city's already looking at is how we incorporate the planning for 89A and the new opportunity that we've got to design this road to be what this city wants. That will start to incorporate into the current community plan that's being developed. We're updating our community plan. That process is underway, and integrating the 89A process into as a special part of that community plan is what's already being contemplated and looked at for how we can proceed. So the first stage is planning and design. We need to work with the community, the businesses, the residents, even the visitors, to identify what we want that road to look like, what we've got in the way of money from ADOT to work with, and how we can make it a safer 24 hours a day road, as well as make it a much nicer road that's more friendly to our visitors and can actually be a great benefit to our businesses along there as well. Yeah, the repaving and the Andante street light will be the first phase, and the safety part of that is the Andante stoplight there and crosswalks and things that will go with it. That'll be a major help right there. But anything beyond that in the way of of other lighting. That there's a definite possibility out there. Strategic medians, pedestrian barriers, additional crosswalks, and lighted kind of crosswalks, kinds of things, will all be figured out as part of a community process. We may bring in a design firm to help with that public process, as well as build the design as they work with the community in doing that. So we'll see the Andante thing very soon, but I don't think we'll be seeing any city-created safety changes on that road for 18 months to probably 2 years that will really start to be visible in the way of some kind of construction. And we do want to and do need to move ahead with safety features on there. So it's an ambitious project, but the fact that we can plug it into an existing community plan process, we have reports from CivTech about their recommended safety features. We have reports from our own highway safety panel that the city put together several years ago. We've got abundant reports from things like the Federal Highway Administration and even some of ADOT's manuals that lay out strategies and things that should be done on that road. So it's not like we're starting from scratch or starting in the dark without any notion of where to begin at all. There's quite a bit of ideas about the possibilities already in place. The general safety improvements I just noted are probably the main ones in the package. There's various kinds of crosswalks, of course. That's the multiple choices there. How we might do various kinds of medians or partial medians or things to provide safety on that street and divide the cars out there are some abundant choices there. Different kind of pedestrian barriers that might be used to have some different kinds of designs, but those are the basic components are pretty standard, I think. You know, we're estimating that the money ADOT's providing us is about a 15-year span in terms of the life of the pavement and in terms of the money they're providing us for maintenance and operation. 15 years from now, that road will be all ours. But if we look back 15 years from where we sit right now and think about what 1996 looked like, that was a long time ago, and we've got a long time in front of us to plan for that. Some ways we'll do it. The city's been running budget surpluses for quite some time because we've been very careful with our budgeting and very conservative with our estimates of revenues. Putting some of that budget surplus away every year, just like a savings account, is one possibility. We're budgeting about $50,000 a year for our part that we share with ADOT, our part of the maintenance on that road. And ADOT's providing us all the money for the maintenance on that road for the next 15-ish years. If we simply continue to budget that and put that in that 89A savings account as well, that builds it. But the two other really strong pieces that are important here. One is to recognize that over the next 10 years on the ramp that we're on right now, we will cut the sales tax subsidy to the sewer system from 46% down to 20%. That amounts to $3 or $4 million per year of sales tax money that's now going into the sewer system that will become available for city use. But the real kicker happens 15 years from now when the sewer bonds that we currently have are paid off. And that's a little over $6 million a year, not just one time, but every year that will be available to the city for various uses here. 1 year of that package is enough to take care of that road for the next 15, and we can use the next 14 years of it for whatever other things we want. We may find ourselves well down the road needing to look at cutting our sales tax because we will simply have potentially too much money coming into the city to use wisely. We might, and I've heard certain city staff already speculate about that. That is speculation. It's 15 years away, but it's already things that people can see further down the road. Hard to imagine, but people are already recognizing that's a possibility. Sedona is unique. You know, cities often have this just sort of revolving door of debt. And, you know, you get one bond paid off, you take on another one, just like perhaps our school board did here with the new school bond that was put in 3 or 4 years ago. But Sedona is absolutely unique in many cities out there. Cities take on a revolving door of debt because they must be constantly expanding their infrastructure as they grow. New parks, wider roads, all those kinds of things have to be done as cities continue to grow. Sedona will not grow. We will infill, We will expand within our internal boundaries, but we will not sprawl out into the Forest Service over and over again like places like Cottonwood or even Flagstaff or other places around us are doing. We are unique in that way. So the notion that we're going to be obligated to take up a lot of money expanding our infrastructure is just not the case. And it's that uniqueness that gives us the opportunity to have the funding that I was describing a bit ago, a great deal of that available to take care of 89A, but only a small part of it is really needed to do that. You know, the city has 106 miles of road that we take care of within our city limits right now. The addition of another 4.5 miles of road is really a small part of that whole package. So we jump from 106 to 111 miles of road within the city that we're taking care of. Most of our road maintenance activities are contracted out to a private firm that does that. The city doesn't run around with trucks and filling in potholes and things. We contract all of that work out. And I have a strong notion we would continue to do that just as we're doing now. We're responsible for maintenance on 89A. We share that with ADOT right now. So we're sweeping streets, we're taking the snow off of 89A. We're already doing a good deal of what it takes to maintain 89A. That means that we're familiar with that piece of road, we have experience with it, as well as we have the equipment in place via the contracts that we use to take care of it just like we do elsewhere around the city. Now the decision has taken place, personally, I know very much that it was the right decision. As we look at what's happened in just the last 2 weeks in terms of ADOT's confirming that they will not be doing anything for cities like ours in the future, they just don't have the money to do that. When we look at the fact that the money that we have is coming through, they're following through exactly as they said they would in that contract, that we will have the opportunity through our community plan to make 89A commensurate in terms of its quality with what we want Sedona to be, like we have with Uptown and 179. This is definitely the right thing to do, and to leave it in ADOT's hands for the kinds of great uncertainties that they provide us is just not the way that Sedona should do business. There is no possibility, in my opinion, based on what ADOT has told us over and over. If we want to believe ADOT, well, we can go around saying, I don't believe any of this, I don't believe any of that, but based on what ADOT has told us over and over again, they have only one notion, and that is that either we accept the transfer, which we have done, or we could have affirmatively told them to bring the lights in and then stay out of their way and don't ask for anything more on that road. Or if we did anything other than that, as I mentioned earlier, they're going to turn this road back to us, whether we like it or not, without the money. And there's every reason to believe from the court opinions and things that are out there, what legal counsel has told us, that they can absolutely and will absolutely do that.